Right friends, welcome back to main events, that is lecture part of second week. Important events, Prime Minister flagged off startup movement, then Union Cabinet clears Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna, Defence Procurement Procedure 2016 unveiled so as to make in India a priority and also to inculcate innovation and design in defense related equipments. Look at the next event, that is the curious case of bad loans, civil wars in Middle East and suicides in Kerala. How one is interlinked with other, we are going to discuss today. Next one is the sanctions on Iran lifted. What does it exactly mean and how does it make difference to Iran as far as in relation to world affairs are concerned? Tsai Ing-wen became the first woman president of Taiwan, and pro-China party was defeated in the elections, and let us see how the election of Tsai Ing-wen will make difference to India. The Prime Minister flagged off Startup India, Stand Up India. It was held in Vignan Bhavan in Delhi, and the Prime Minister's main issue is youth should be job creators, not job seekers. In our country, the culture is just going for jobs, but the Prime Minister's contention is at least some of the youth should become job creators, not job seekers. And meanwhile, what is the meaning of a startup? Startup is a budding company in search of a scalable business model. The business model should be scalable and it should be a small company which has got potential for high growth. So, the essence of startups revolves around the concepts of ambition, then innovation, then scalability and growth. All of you are well aware the recent examples of how Snapdeal, Flipkart, Housing.com, these ventures came up in our country. Normally, the word startup is used for tech related companies. There is no bar of using startups for other companies also, but world over this name became synonymous with tech related companies because of the reason tech related companies have got scalability with little investment. The scalability and abnormal growth is possible in tech related companies than other companies like manufacturing. That's why these startups became synonymous with tech related companies, and the Bay Area of United States of America, Singapore and to some extent Bengaluru in India established several startup companies, right? And this was attended by SoftBank founder Masayoshi Son. SoftBank belongs to Japan and its founder Masayoshi Son attended, along with the Uber co-founder Travis Kalanick also attended this Startup India program on 16th of January, and government announced several measures. First one is rupees 10,000 crore government funding over the next 4 years. Government will fund rupees 2,500 crore every year for the next 4 years, and this is in the form of a fund of funds. What is the meaning of fund of funds? Fund of funds is this fund will be invested in some venture capital fund and that in turn will be given to startups. So, this mechanism is called fund of funds. That means government will not directly give to the startups, but it will invest in some venture capital fund, right? So, 10,000 crore fund of funds is announced by government. Second important point is startup profits to be tax free for 3 years. Then compliance based on self certification, no labor inspections for 3 years. Then from April 1, 2016, mobile app will be there to register startups in just 1 day, and 80% rebate will be there in fee for patent application, and the process will be fast tracked. Then easy exit option for startups within a time frame of 90 days. What is meant by exit option? An young entrepreneur is establishing startup, then he want to exit from it. There will be easy exit option, because startups, out of 100 startups, there will be 4 or 5 success stories, and several of the startups normally fail. And in foreign countries, people celebrate failure also, because one failure will lead to success subsequently, and most of these tech related companies were established after several failures in the initial stages. So failure of startup company is quite common, and there should be a culture to celebrate failure also, which is evident in United States of America. Then other features are tax exemption for capital gains, then sector specific incubators. What is incubator? Incubator is the place where idea should be developed into profitable business venture. Idea will be developed into profitable business venture, that is incubator. Unfortunately, in our country, proper incubators are not there. In foreign countries, there are several incubators where these startups will be transformed into successful business ventures. That means idea will be transformed into profitable business venture, but incubator culture and startup ecosystem is not there in our country. It is the most unfortunate part in our country. Then credit guarantee fund will be created, and through PPP model, that is public private partnership model, 35 new incubators and 31 innovation centers will be created. So this is the broad framework announced by government, and on 16th January this Startup India, Stand Up India was announced by the government. And at the same time, Government of India stated each commercial bank in our country should support one SC/ST entrepreneur and one woman entrepreneur. That is also part of this Startup India, Stand Up India program. So this program was unveiled in a big way, and if you want more, please listen to news analysis of this week so as to know about the specific features and shortcomings. Look into the next one. Union Cabinet clears Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna. And you may ask, what exactly is available at this juncture before the announcement of this Fasal Bima Yojna? National Agricultural Insurance Scheme came up in 1999. Modified National Agricultural Insurance Scheme came up 10 years later in the year 2010. And at present, insurance is available for around 23% of the area, you can say insurance is available. Remaining 77% are without any insurance. And the second unfortunate event is it does not cover the present insurance I am talking about. The present insurance mechanism does not cover post-harvesting losses or extraneous factors like inundation, hailstorms. And third important point is, in the present structure, the benefits are limited. That means if crop loss occurs, benefits will be available up to some extent only. So these three are the negative factors of present insurance schemes, and the Prime Minister announced this Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojana. And what are the salient features? The salient features are premium to be paid by farmers is limited to 2% for Kharif crops, 1.5% for Rabi crops, and 5% for horticulture and commercial crops. Balance premium will be paid by state government and central government, but farmers' payment is limited to 2% for Kharif crops, 1.5% for Rabi crops, 5% for horticulture and commercial crops. You may ask, what is the Kharif crop and Rabi crop? Kharif crop, please look into this slide. The main crop is rice, and others are maize, sorghum and groundnut. If you look at Rabi crops, main crop is wheat, other crops are barley, mustard, like that. And there is no upper limit on government subsidy. Other important point is, center and states will equally share the estimated expenditure of rupees 8,000 crores, because farmers are paying very less. then it will also provide coverage to localized risks of hailstorms, landslides, inundation, as well as the post-harvest losses of cyclonic and unseasonal rains. As I have already told you, some of these features are not available in the present insurance schemes. So, the coverage will be extended to localized risks of hailstorms, landslides, inundation, as well as post-harvest losses of cyclonic and unseasonal rains. And how Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna is different from modified National Agricultural Insurance Scheme of 2010. Important factor is premium rates are very low. That is the first factor. The second one is there is no cap on insurance cover. Previously, there was a cap on the insurance cover. That means up to some extent only insurance companies were paying to the farmer, and from now onwards there is no cap on insurance amount cover. That is second important difference in comparison to previous schemes. Third one is the use of technology for quicker assessment of claims is made mandatory. The government is coming up with the use of various technological tools for quicker assessment of claims. That is another important point, and most important point is it covers additionally inundation, post-harvest losses for cyclonic and unseasonal rains in the country. With these changes, Pradhanmantri Fasal Bima Yojna want to cover at least 50% of the land. I have already told you at present, the present insurance schemes are covered up to an extent of 23%, but now government wants to increase it to 50%, and government also wants to create more awareness among the farmers. Now, what are the difficulties or challenges? First and the foremost is to create awareness among the farmers. Awareness should be created among the farmers to pay 2% and 1.5% for Kharif and Rabi crops respectively. Farmers should be educated about the features of this scheme because there is no cap on the coverage. Second important point is it covers several extraneous features like inundation, post-harvest losses. Farmers should be well educated. Third important point is 642 Krishi Vignan Kendras are there in our country. These Krishi Vignan Kendras should take proper role in educating farmers across the country. The fourth important point is sufficient general insurance companies should be roped in to implement it without any problem. So, these are the challenges. I hope the government will overcome these challenges. Looking to the next one, Defence Procurement Procedure 2016 unveiled. What is Defence Procurement Procedure? Defence Procurement Procedure is basically the procedure for procurement of defence equipments. Arms, ammunition and several other defence equipments are required, and I would like to tell you at present 65% of our requirements are met through imports. The other important point is to regulate or to draw down the procedure how the defence procurement has to take place. This defence procurement procedure was brought for the first time in the year 2002, and the previous defence procurement procedure pertains to 2013, and now this defence procurement procedure of 2016 was unveiled. And by the by, one more point I would like to tell you, this Defence Acquisition Council is headed by the Defence Minister, and this Defence Procurement Procedure of 2016 is based on the recommendations of the committee headed by former Home Secretary Dhirendra Singh. And if you look at what are the important features, the first and the foremost important feature is this Defence Procurement Procedure of 2016 introduced a new category popularly known as indigenously designed, developed and manufactured platform. This is indigenously designed in India. That means it will lead to innovation in our country. And there are two categories. First category is for domestic design, 40% of domestic content is mandatory, and if the design is not Indian, then 60% of domestic content is mandatory. And the domestic companies eligible under this will have majority Indian control and should be operated by Indian nationals. That means indigenously designed products should be controlled by Indian companies and operated by Indian nationals. That means the majority under Indian control. This is specifically stated. The second important point is contentious issue of offsets raised from the present limit of rupees 300 crore to rupees 2000 crores. What is this offsets? Offsets means if foreign firm is supplying equipment to our country, as I have already told you, 65% of our defense needs are met through imports, and when foreign firm is supplying defense equipment to our country, part of it has to be invested to develop domestic industry, that is 30%. If a foreign firm is supplying defense equipment worth rupees 1000 crores, then 300 crores should be invested domestically so as to develop domestic industry, and previously the limit was rupees 300 crores. Now it is increased to rupees 2000 crores. That means the firms supplying foreign manufactured defense equipment up to rupees 2000 crore henceforth from now onwards need not follow this offset policy, and this will be applicable for the firms of above rupees 2000 crores equipment suppliers, right? And there are views and counter views on this. Government says when the offset clause is there, the cost of the equipment is increasing, right? Look into the next most important thing. The other feature is Make Indian. What is Make Indian? There are three categories. That means for developing prototype, if a private firm wants to design a new gun, then government will fund that research under three categories: Make 1, Make 2, Make 3. Under Make 1 category, government will fund 90% of the development cost of prototype. Before designing any new product, first R&D or research and development is to be done so as to develop a prototype. Prototype means that is the miniature of the actual product, and for that lot of investment is required, and for making everything Indian, government came up with government support of 90% of the development cost government will give, and the firm will invest only 10%. And subsequently, if there are no orders, that means they have developed a prototype and subsequently no one is coming forward to purchase that. Under those circumstances, government will refund that 10% also. That means R&D part will be taken care by government. The research for making innovative products in defense will be taken care by the government, and the government will invest in this research and development. That is the main purpose of this Make Indian. There are three categories: Make 1, Make 2, Make 3. Under Make 1, government will fund 90% of the development cost and guaranteed return of balance 10% if there are no orders. The second one is industry. That means the private parties will fund for their own prototypes. That means for development and innovation, the private parties will develop on their own. But if there are no orders for the subsequent 24 months, government will refund the entire amount. Third one is all the projects worth less than rupees 3 crore development cost What is development cost? Development cost is the cost for designing a prototype. That means for designing an innovative product, that is development cost. If the cost is less than rupees 3 crores, that entire category will be reserved for small scale industry. That means MSMEs will benefit out of it. So, in a nutshell, there are 3 changes. One is indigenously designed, developed and manufactured platform will be created in our country, and priority will be given to this IDDM category while undertaking defense procurements. The second important point is the limit for offset clause is raised from rupees 300 crores to rupees 2000 crores. The third important point is government will fund innovation, will fund research under Make 1, Make 2, Make 3 categories, and with these 3 categories, government wants to give a message that we are behind you. Please go ahead with the research. That is the message the defense procurement procedure wants to convey to the industry. So, make Indian and big push for MSME sector, then greater role for private sector in innovation by government support. These are the salient features of this defense procurement procedure of 2016. And the biggest problem is in our country, in defense procurements and defense manufacturing in our country, there are 2 issues where everyone comments. The first and the foremost is there are around 8 or 9 public sector defense undertakings like Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, Bharat Electronics Limited, Mishra Dhatu Nigam Limited or Mithani popularly called. Like that, there are around 8 public sector enterprises for defense manufacturing, and what they are doing is they are just assembling foreign kits in India, and something is to be done to reform public sector enterprises, or they should be totally sidelined, otherwise nothing will come out of it. The second important point is the foreign vendors, the foreign defense manufacturers, when they are sending their equipments to India, are enjoying lot of facilities like self-certification, and there are several other concessions enjoyed by these foreign defense manufacturers. So, ultimately, the inefficiency of these public sector defense enterprises and the privileges enjoyed by the foreign defense manufacturers, and the government's steps are no doubt in the right direction, and let us hope this will give big push for Make in India, greater role for private sector innovation and big push for MSME sector. Curious case of bad loans, civil wars in Middle East, suicides in Kerala. How one is interlinked with the other, let us look at this issue. State Bank of Travancore gave education loans mostly to nursing students. This is usual in Kerala. Kerala, several students take up nursing courses, BSc nursing courses, and normally they get around 4.5 lakhs of loan from banks. And in this particular case, State Bank of Travancore gave loans to several BSc nursing students. Each loan amounts to around 4.5 lakhs. In previous days, what used to happen is they used to get employment in Middle East countries. They used to go to Yemen, they used to go to Libya, North African country, they used to go to Syria, and they used to get employment in Gulf countries mostly, and their salary used to be around 60,000, 70,000 if you look at it from Indian currency point of view, and they used to pay the monthly EMIs without much difficulty. But what happened? Subsequently, situation changed. Now there is a civil war in several Gulf countries. Syria is in trouble, Yemen is in trouble, North African country Libya is in trouble, and because of these political disturbances and civil wars, they are getting jobs in our country only, and their salary is around 10,000 to 13,000 per month, and the EMI is rupees 12,000 per month. How can they pay EMI of rupees 12,000? That's why several loans were defaulted. That means the education loans became NPAs, non-performing assets. All of you are well aware, if the loan is not paid for more than 90 days, it becomes non-performing asset. And in several of these cases, education loans became non-performing assets. And subsequently, State Bank of Travancore sold these non-performing assets to Reliance Asset Reconstruction Company. All of you are well aware, under SURFACE Act, please look into this. What is SURFACE Act? Securitization and Reconstruction of Financial Assets and Enforcement of Security Interest Act of 2002. This was brought in 2002. Banks can sell bad loans to asset reconstruction companies. And State Bank of Travancore sold 130 crores of these non-performing assets to asset reconstruction company, that is Reliance. And now the responsibility of collecting money from the defaulters lies with Reliance. As State Bank of Travancore sold these loans to Reliance Asset Reconstruction Company, now the responsibility of collecting these payments falls on this Reliance Asset Reconstruction Company, and accordingly several coercive methods are being used by these asset reconstruction company, that is Reliance. As the students are not able to pay back, Reliance Asset Reconstruction Company is using several coercive methods. Previously, State Bank of Travancore used to ask the defaulters, but the methods employed by the bank will be different from the methods employed by some private party like Reliance Asset Reconstruction Company. Because of coercive methods adopted by Reliance Asset Reconstruction Company, as per the news reports, 4 students, 17 parents committed suicide in recent times. Right? So, how the geopolitical situation in Middle East is affecting banking system, how the selling of these non-performing assets to Reliance Asset Reconstruction Company resulted in the lives of Kerala people. And this is a classic case that nowadays everything is interconnected in this world. Right? Look into the next one. Around the world, if you look at sanctions on Iran lifted. Before discussing this event, we have to go back to July 2015. In July 2015, specifically 14th July 2015, an agreement was reached between world powers and Iran. The world powers, popularly known as the P5+1. Don't ask me what is P5. P5 is permanent members of Security Council and Germany. These 6 countries had long discussions for several years, and ultimately a deal was struck with Iran on July 14, 2015. As per the deal, Iran agreed to get rid of 98% of its stockpile of enriched uranium. Here a doubt may arise, what is enriched uranium and what is centrifuge? Because the first point is, Iran agreed to get rid of 98% of its stockpile of enriched uranium, and at the same time centrifuges which are required for enriching uranium will be reduced from 19,000 to 6,000. These 2 are the preconditions agreed on July 14, 2015, and after 6 months, now IAEA inspected Iran and gave certificate. Before going into the certificate, let us learn something about what is enriched uranium and what is centrifuge. Natural uranium is predominantly U-238. Naturally occurring uranium, the U-238 is 99.2%. and U-235 is just 0.72%. But that will not be sufficient for either producing nuclear energy or for producing atomic bomb. This U-235 is to be increased. How it is increased? That is with the help of centrifuges. Centrifuges are required to increase the quantity of U-235. Centrifuges, please look into this picture. These are used for increasing the content of U-235. If U-235 is increased to 3 to 5%, that is called reactor grade uranium or low enriched uranium. This reactor grade uranium or low enriched uranium is used for producing nuclear energy. If U-235 is raised to 90%, that is weapons grade uranium, that is highly enriched uranium, that is used for making atomic bomb. For increasing the quantity of U-235, what is used? Centrifuges are used. So, as per the agreement on July 14, 2015, Iran has to do two things. One is its enriched uranium, 98% is to be sent away from Iran. Second point is centrifuges which are needed for enriching uranium are to be reduced from 19,000 to 6,000. Third condition was enrichment has to be stopped at underground Fordo facility and Iran should facilitate inspection of inspectors by IAEA, and these are the things to be followed by Iran. After following these conditions, sanctions will be lifted against Iran. However, United Nations arms embargo will remain in place for 5 years. It cannot procure arms for next 5 years. At the same time, it cannot procure missiles for next 8 years. These two are the conditions. So, these are salient features of Iran nuclear deal which was struck on 14th July 2015. Now 6 months passed. International Atomic Energy Agency is the nodal agency for inspection. This is based in Vienna, Austria. Their inspectors inspected Iran facilities and now they certified Iran shipped 98% of its nuclear fuel to Russia, reducing its stockpile of low enriched uranium to just 300 kg from 10,000 kg. That means it sent its nuclear fuel away from Iran. The first condition is satisfied. The second condition is it dismantled 12,000 centrifuges. I have already told you, centrifuges are used to increase the quantity of U-235, popularly known as enrichment of uranium. Now it dismantled centrifuges. Now these two conditions are met. IAEA inspectors gave the certificate. Subsequent to the certificate, economic sanctions imposed on Iran by United States of America, European Union and United Nations were lifted. Right. So, now economic sanctions against Iran are lifted, and what does this mean? I have given here, please look into it. It will open up Iran to international trade and investment. It will trade with any country. Second, it can sell oil in international market. Then it will have access to more than $100 billion of money that was frozen overseas banks. Then more business for European Union countries already sagging under slow growth, and Iran will come into the world organized financial system. Then if you look at India, Chabahar port will become a reality and government can go ahead with developing Chabahar port. Not only that, in and around Chabahar port, government can think of developing some free trade zone around Chabahar port, right? So, these are the issues subsequent to the lifting of sanctions on Iran. And finally, the critical view is because of lifting of sanctions on Iran, in future, Iran may become another power center. All of you are well aware, Iran is leading Shia group of Muslims, Saudi Arabia is leading Sunni group of Muslims, and there is ever possibility that Iran may strengthen its position as a rival to Saudi Arabia, and it may lead to further escalation of violence in future, as Yemen, Syria are already boiling in Middle East. Right friends, look at the last one, Taiwan. Elections in Taiwan. Taiwan is the island nation, practically independent since 1950, and its nominal GDP is $500 billion, almost 1/4 of India's GDP. Capital is Taipei, and several countries are not recognizing Taiwan, and very few countries have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, and Taiwan is one of the world's top producers of computer technology. And if you look at the recent history of Taiwan, Taiwan island came under the administrative control of Qing dynasty of China in 1683, and subsequently in 1895 it was ceded to Japan in the Sino-Japanese War, that is first Sino-Japanese War. China lost to Japan, that's why this was ceded to Japan. And subsequently, after World War II, as Japan was defeated, this came under the control of China in 1945, but the trouble started in 1949 because of a civil war between nationalist forces and communist forces in China. Nationalist leader Chiang Kai-shek lost in civil war and fled to Taiwan and established government there. But China has not recognized that and still feels Taiwan is part of their mainland or part of China. And in 1971, United Nations recognized Communist China as the sole government, and China took the United Nations Security Council seat. Right? With this historical perspective, elections were held, and Tsai Ing-wen became the first woman president of Taiwan. And here one interesting point I would like to tell you: the party which is conceived as pro-China that lost in the elections, and Tsai Ing-wen became the first woman president of Taiwan, and she is expected to take slightly anti-China policy, because in recent times there is a feeling that Taiwan's relations with China are improving, and as the people of Taiwan rejected the policies followed, or you can say rejected the government which followed pro-China stance. That's why the new president who got elected with the Taiwanese identity, and she may keep China at a distance, and India may be benefited if she follows the policy of go south. And in future, if she keeps China at a distance, the relations between Taiwan and India are likely to increase, and Taiwanese companies are expected to establish their bases in our country if Taiwanese first woman president follows the policy of go south by keeping China at a distance. Right friends, with this let us conclude the main events or lecture part of second week. Have a nice day. Thank you. Please do join for news analysis. We are going to discuss about Startup India, Stand Up India. Right friends, thank you.